Um, so Arvell Craig, welcome to Leopard Job. How are you?
I am phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Thank
How are
you.
you, Catherine?
I am so good, and I'm so glad to have you here. I'm just getting this whole podcast series started, and Leopard Job is all about finding your spot in the new world. And you and I had the opportunity to meet at a conference that was, there was a big segment on AI, and I got to
Hmm.
be part of that panel to discuss. And you came up to me right after and said, "This is exactly what I talk about." I didn't
Yeah.
realize how much you talked about it. I've been kind of checking you out. So
Okay.
tell me a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm definitely excited about this conversation. I mean, the short story of me. I work right now in two AI startups. So one company has two AI products where we're creating conversational generative AI to help call centers either cut costs by with its QA monitoring post call. Then we have another AI that's a voice AI that actually makes calls and does warm transfers to kind of automate that process. So it's very exciting to be in the space. Um, yeah. So again, this whole AI thing is new, but I had a chatbot company for 4 years, like 6 years ago when Facebook opened up Messenger, and I was into email marketing before then. So like chatbots were the new email marketing 2.0, and it was using natural language processing and did that for a few years until COVID hit. And then I kind of transitioned into some of these full-time roles. In short, I've been in marketing, digital marketing since 2001, 2, 3, so a long time,
I
and it's very exciting with what's happening now. So I'm just excited to again finding my place in the world and
There you go.
still evolving in that sense. So yeah.
I love it. And this is what I say about AI especially. So you and I have both been in this, digital marketing thing for about the same length of time. So to say, remember like in the early 2000s when social media was really revving up and everybody was starting to use Facebook, and then we could finally open up the ad platform on it, and
Mm,
people were hiring for that, and they'd say, are you an expert in social media? No, no one is an expert in social media. No one
right.
knows what the success metrics are out of Facebook or what the expectations are. Even though we understood it better than maybe the executives of the day, the C-suite of the day, really there was no expert in social media until now. Now you can get full degrees on it, right? Through
Right, right.
some marketing degrees in social media. So that was just not an option for us back then. This is very much the same spot we find ourselves in today with artificial intelligence. There is no one
Hmm.
who is an expert in this. Everyone is learning, and they're really learning at largely at an industry level, except for
Hmm.
some other people in the world talking about some really big concepts around this that we'll share in a bit. But for now, what do you feel like is sort of where we are as far as true adoption, because having something available is not the same as it being utilized to its fullest potential. We see this across almost everything. Even in something like the mortgage industry, we have a point of sale system. You should be able to send a link and someone apply for a mortgage, but really utilizing all the capabilities of those point of sale systems where people are uploading documentation and passing communication in a secure portal, logging into their bank accounts to get their assets and pulling them back in. That utilization is not even really
Mm.
quite 50% of its power. So that's a simple tool. What about something like AI? What are you finding with y'all's clients for real adoption?
Honestly, that is such a hard way to to answer because it isn't even defined yet, right? Because AI, again, the current 2023 version of generative AI, where I don't think we even know what it is yet. So there are people that are using again conversational AI, where you're able to automate conversations and simple processes, whether it's text or voice. Chat bots, which have been around, and things are evolving and changing. Um, but yeah, I really think that the next 6 to 18 months are going to be so revolutionary, and there's no comparison to the past because never in the past has technology created technology.
That's right.
Technology couldn't really, I say there's artificial intelligence, but there's not infinite intelligence. And it's like, I just don't think we know what's really happening. Again, in a positive way,
Yes.
it's going to be able to do so much on its own. It's hard to really imagine what the future is going to look like. So I think we're just scratching the surface It's funny. Even my thoughts about AI in the past 6 months have changed dramatically. And I'll just say this one thing. 6 months ago, the past 6 months, I've been saying, don't worry about ChatGPT and all the models. Don't try to be a prompt engineer. Right. Just find the apps and tools that are integrated with AI that already have it. Don't try to figure this out. They're smarter people. Again, if you're not an engineer or a data scientist, don't even go there. Just use the tools, use, co-pilots or whatever. That's what I was saying up until the announcement this week, where it seems like these base models like ChatGPT are going to be able to do everything. Anyway, so there's just so much changing that it's hard to really understand, because any person with their natural language are going to be able to not just create content and code and conversations. You're going to be able to create an entirely AI agent assistant that can do everything. And so I don't think we really know what things are going to look like in the next 6 to 12 months or 18 months. So I'll just stop there.
I think it's well said. You're exactly right, because it's exponential from here. You're right. When technology can start to create technology, that can happen exponentially faster. It doesn't need to sleep 8 hours of night, right? And in fact, I'm just about, speaking of the jungle, you see my dog back there. I've got a whole jungle back here. Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah.
Leopard Digital, Leopard Job. And that is again, this digital transformation is something we can't quite understand where it takes us. But even to date, just adoption of people saying, hey, I want a piece of that. I want, for my customers to be able to get instant access to all the data we have on them that we're willing to expose through someone on a phone. Let's go ahead and expose that through a bot of some sort, let's say. I think part of the challenge is that people, it's sort of like, and we'll go back to the early days for a moment again, people sort of thought, if you build me a website, then everybody will come and buy all my stuff on my website. Okay, we launched the site. It's just going to be huge, right? They didn't understand search engine optimization and SEM efforts to drive traffic to that site, and then work on conversion and really understand A/B testing and everything it takes to be successful online. Once you do that, of course, that's where the masses live, and it can be enormously successful. I think artificial intelligence has been a little bit like that a lot of the generative AI that we're trying to use in companies is not, you've got one of your jungle animals back there too. Well, truly no worries. Yeah. So I think that today, this is where AI is a little bit confusing for a lot of people to try to implement into their companies, because they're like, all right, it's artificial intelligence. It's genius. Open it up out of the box and watch that bot go, It's like, no, a lot of the artificial intelligence is not artificial. A lot of it does, take training and programming, and certainly implementation, including a large data dump, a very consistent data dump, a constant reevaluation of Q&As, FAQs, if you will, from customers back into that artificial intelligence so that it can do the natural learning and that sort of thing. So it's not as if it's necessarily taking over the need for customer service roles. It's just that those people then need to be programming the AI instead of just answering the phone, so that the AI can be responsive 24/7 for customers. So is that sort of, do y'all talk about that with any of your clients, sort of, in-house training? And there's, again, you're not going to go find those experts. The people that have your intellectual property in your company are the people that need to be working in the AI. What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I love what you talk about, the human element and their role in the process. I was just reading this AI operations philosophy. Because I am really passionate about the AI transformation. That's the thing that excites me. Again, even the 6 months, I was like, we've got so much power, but we're not even using it. And there's things that we can't do, but it's like, even right now, it's like we're not changing. How does the worker need to change? And so I was reading this simple article about comparing RPA, or robotic process automation, compared to AI operations, or just the fact of automation versus AI, because automation has been around for a while. So the main thing that I really loved about the article that you just mentioned is, like, automation is so simple and it's so logical and there's so many rules. It's really defined. It's a narrow angle of doing the exact same thing. But when you think about AI in your operations, it's not as narrow. It's more broad, right? There's more intelligence, but there has to be humans in the system that help to QA, that help to look at the data to make sure the prompt doesn't. But it's so I'm trying to, like, I know when I get off this call, I'm going to have to put a visual to look at that process, because humans have to be in the flow with AI versus just all automation and just email. So that's just something that you just helping me to understand.
Really good point. So that's, kind of another level. So we have AI, we have automation, and then we have IA, which would be, basically information augmentation, right? So, or an intelligent augmentation, either way you want to look at it. And that is sort of enhancing the knowledge that you have, let's say out of a business intelligence tool or something, and then asking the person, how would you like to respond? How would you like to behave? Certainly the medical industry, that could be the case where AI might grab a lot of information. But then the IA would say, doctor, what do you now want to do with this patient? It's not going to execute on that like automation would, let's say.
Gotcha.
And something like manufacturing, for instance, if there's an issue with the machine and they're making a part, the AI might be able to figure out that there is an issue with the machine, but it would take IA to determine what to do unless you set automation to say, when this happens, when this error happens, fix it with that. And so you really are starting to combine all of these capabilities, AI, IA, and automation in different worlds to recognize that the singularity of it is only as big as it is. It's all of these combined that sort of make this very robust potential replacement for people's jobs, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk, briefly. I know I just sent it to you, but I'm so excited about it. And just came out on October 16th of this year, so it's relatively new. It's called the Techno Optimist Manifesto. And this is a report, a paper written by Mark Andreessen, who is a very well-known private equity guy who's been in startup for a long time and has certainly been passionate about technology. And I'm going to read, a quote or two from this. We don't have to dive into it at length. I highly suggest people that are interested in the transition of work and their jobs to take a look at this. But it's sort of almost like an oath to technology, right? It's sort of like saying what Leopard Job is all about is, the concept of taking over jobs has always been a very huge concern, very nerve-wracking. People are resistant to technology because of it. Instead of saying, what part of the job is it taking over that allows me to do something different, right? We have more people today than ever. We have more jobs today than ever. So technology and all of its evolution did not take over jobs. It just replaced the types of jobs that we used to do, right? This is what I always say. Tell the candle makers electricity is coming, right? It's going to change the candle forever. So the part of the manifesto that is under truth is the title there. It says, our civilization was built on technology. Our civilization is built on technology. Technology is the glory of human ambition and achievement, the spear heart of progress and the realization of our potential. For hundreds of years, we properly glorified this until recently. I am here to bring the good news. We can advance to a far superior way of living and of being. We have the tools, the systems, the ideas. We have the will. It is time once again to raise the technology flag. It is time to be techno-optimist. That just sends chills down my spines, because particularly that one statement, we can advance to a far superior way of living and being, is what this is really what I call the work revolution and what it's all about.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I like it. I think about, and I thought about this again. This is something that I'm learning, right? I've been a professional for 20, 25 years. I'm learning, I'm growing, but when that phrase, we can advance to a far superior way of living and being, I tell people right now, I get paid for who I am and not what I do. Just as a side note, but related. I've been evolving as a professional into owning who I am. Again, not just what I do, not just because I have a computer science degree and I did some of that, not just because as you become a manager and a leader, entrepreneur, you evolve and your identity is not based on what you do. I feel pride when my employee creates something the way I had pride when I did it myself. So that's just various flavors of evolution that I'm been living. But now with AI, if people haven't really, it's like it threatens, if your identity is based upon what you do, it'll threaten you. If you think, like you said, if you're a candle maker, now there's lights. If you're like, I used to be strong and now this weak person has a forklift, and so my strength is no longer needed. I had a really good memory and this person has an iPad, or all these things that we assess or attribute our identity towards what we do. It's going to be a struggle. But if you can evolve and realize that your being, your value, what you bring to the table is something on a higher level, then you can trust and allow the tech to do its thing. And though I used to write really well, I've got great copywriting skills, and maybe ChatGPT can write better than me. Am I okay with that? Am I okay with laying down that and kind of evolving into what my value is? But that's kind of a deep level, but that's kind of what I think about based upon just that one line. We need to evolve into who we are, what we bring to the table, that humanness, that empathy, that essence, things that technology can't do. If we can own that, then we can be comfortable in allowing tech to do what it does better and faster than what we could ever do.
Arvell, this is exactly why I wanted to have this conversation with you. You put that perfectly. I just released a blog today called The Power of Productivity. And it's starting to get people to redefine what productivity means. Productivity is work. That's what it is, right? You're working if you are productive. What you're productive at should be what you naturally are wanting to do, right? My ex-husband, actually, though we're still very good friends, got in a terrible motorcycle accident a few weeks ago. And I went to the hospital, and we spent 8 days there. You know, we started to deal with all of the routes of recovery. It's very difficult, but he will be fine. But in those 8 days, you know, how many different nurses came through the room? How many different tests came through? You know, how much help did he need? And all of the private ways people need help, right? It was extraordinarily humbling for a really strong man, and really introspective for me to look at a world that is so busy, includes so many people. There were traveling nurses there, you know, that just what a system, you know, the way they distributed the pills was, you know, all through, you know, some kind of distribution center. And then they came in the room and used technology to make sure which pill was actually, you know, given, and which pill maybe he refused. And there was a system to put back for that. It was just this massive ecosystem that we all recognize the medical industry is, but no, thank you. I don't care to have any part of it, right? And all I could, the whole time I kept thinking, thank you for doing this. Thank you for wanting to do this, because it's not me, right? Not at all, but was, you know, certainly a desperately needed situation. And they seem to love their jobs, you know, at least most of them that were there. So again, is this even change in maybe the ability for artificial intelligence one day to even take over some surgeries, let's say, that might even have greater precision? That doesn't remove the need for someone needs, you know, to change the bed sheets. And again, the sentiment, right? Does this person even understand what is going on with himself? You know, that sort of, that human touch, the high tech, high touch piece, the high touch, will likely never replace from humanity. And so that is where the evolution of being, you know, in medicine may evolve in a fantastic way for people who really care about people, and not so much, you know, if they got the exact pill count just right, you know, let the technology sort of own that piece.
Yeah, no, I like that. Your first statement. What is productivity? How do we define it? So one of the things I'm experimenting with is, again, we live in this world the past, I don't know, 10, 20 years. I'd say this information age, the internet age, the increase of information, right? The overload of stimulation, and how most of our tech and devices is predicated, built upon, you know, the AI was used to kind of distract us and use, that's what's been happening, right? And so I've always been big on not just mindfulness, but work-life balance, about, again, how can I be the most productive? Does it require me to be on my phone, 12 hours a day, 13 hours a day? Is there a diminishing return? So again, as we transition, I think it's going to be a struggle, but we have to redefine, because again, maybe, so I think, was it Warren Buffett, people that sit all day and think. They think all day long. They think for weeks and months, and then they come out of their cave and they make one decision that's incredibly more impactful than the person who's spending all. So that's the kind of thing, again, that I'm kind of evolving in. It's like, how do we, as knowledge workers and people on the computer and all the devices, what happens when we don't have to think so much, when we don't have to be so stimulated and so bombarded with all the advertising messages and social messages and good, bad, and ugly, and turn all that down or delegate that to an AI. And when our mind is free for so much more time, who knows what can happen? Even that high touch. Yes, we have high touch, but what if, again, much of that gray matter in our brains wasn't distracted as much? Imagine the amount of attention we could have in a conversation if we were truly, truly more disconnected. And I think, again, this is the kind of things that we don't know what's going to happen. And if we really, really embrace what tech can do, again, what we bring to the table as a human, there's levels of humanity that haven't even been reached because we're so spread and disconnected and in multitasking. Anyways, that's some of the predictive, prophetic future things that I think I'm excited about tapping into, turning down more tech, more noise, more stuff, and redefining what productivity is.
I love it. One example that I give is that this whole remote workforce, right? This is one of the evolutions of work. Definitely finding your spot not going into the office is wonderful. You can literally just, instead of commuting, you can start your laundry and change it at lunchtime, just kind of keep going. And this separation of work and life is a little more blurred than it used to be. You used to leave your life and go to work and leave your work and go to your life. And that is not what we need to do anymore. But the more we can let technology run itself, just like you're saying, really the mundane task, what are, the sort of repetitive mundane tasks, then when we are at home being productive, ideally working and being productive in something that is, that we love to do. For you, it happens to be AI, but whatever it is, you also do have more time. You are not doing some of potentially your own work, right? The laundry might start to do itself, let's say. And then if you do just look outside your window, you might notice, that older lady across the street, I have not seen her come out of our home in a long time. I'm going to go to the grocery store and I'm going to run by there and see, does she need anything? There's just a bandwidth of time that merges your work and your life, right? Is both productive. Grocery shopping by yourself, much less for someone else, is extraordinary productivity. And it is just a redefinition of what we define as work. I often say work is not a 4-letter word. It's actually an acronym on the Leopard Job platform, which is wealth, opportunity, responsibility, and kindness. And that's what the 4, sort of bases are for redefining what work means to people in the future as AI starts to take over, and allow us a little more time.
You know what? If you don't mind, I didn't see on your website, again, your background is mortgage and marketing. And sure. I'm not certain on the real background because it seems very, very different, correct? This new, are you able to share a little bit about the real backstory of, it seemed like a big change.
Thank you very accurate? Much. Yeah, most people are very confused. What is she doing, actually? So my degree is in organizational behavior from the University of San Francisco. I wrote a book actually years ago that never formally got published. It was so close, but it never got the final signature, on generational diversity and starting to deal with the fact that, baby boomers and Gen Xers, and then as Gen Y was starting to enter the workforce, everybody thought very differently about the big corner office and the big title and, living at the office from 7 to 7. It was just not something the next generation wanted to do, right? So that was sort of the first, evolution of creating work-life balance. That was it, right? It was in the early 2000s. There was no such thing. It was all work. The first car in the parking lot in the morning and the last car out at night was what you were shooting for, right? And then, of course, families fell apart and the society fell apart. And with all of this great technology and all of this, time-saving capabilities and smartphones, we really haven't done very much to evolve society. In fact, advance it almost at all. So, from a well-being standpoint, let's say.
Yeah.
So I got into, I'm like you, I love technology. I was in the San Francisco Bay Area. I dove right into startups. I worked with every startup you've never heard of because they all lost funding, but they were all doing the early things, right? Social media and payment platforms and point of sale systems and web development and certainly search engine marketing. And so as I just kind of absorbed all that and went from place to place, I learned a lot and ended up in financial services. And that is where we started to, realize really big returns on being sort of early into web interfaces for consumers. And so that was, a real thrill, but I never lost the interest, and the way that my job looked so different from other people's being in technology. And so eventually that led me into mortgage. And mortgage, in 2018, when I entered it, it was like startup all over again. It was the most laggard industry that was out there. They still had not fully adopted technology. And in 2018, we went from literally handwriting 1003s is the name of the mortgage application, handwriting applications, all the way through point of sale system, hybrid documents that, many were able to be e-signed. And believe it or not, we had a bot. We had AI by the time I left that company in 2023, earlier this year. So in that 5-year evolution, we went from, zero to hero in all the capabilities of technology. So that is a great example of how an industry in only 5 years sort of could catch up with other industries who had been in technology for a long time. But now everything is going to make this exponential leap with AI. So that's why I decided to start Leopard Job, because I see a much bigger evolution of the way we work.
No, I love it. I love it. I love the idea of just holding fast to those original seeds and the original dreams and things like that. So no, I love it. I've got a bunch of degrees, and I've been in marketing for a long time, but I've got some things in the background that who knows in the next coming years, so other sides of our personality or our passions kind of come alive, and that's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely, happy to. Well, I cannot thank you enough for your time today. Is there any last questions or any parting thoughts about AI that you'd like to share or ask me about?
Awesome. But no, that's so the only thing. Yeah, my kind of ending words. Some of the things I can share. Again, I think that manifesto, which I assume will be linked somewhere or shared with this conversation, is a great redirection, again, of perspective and attitude. I think people need to understand that it's inevitable. So there's the energy you can spend to fight it or resist it. It's just not worth it. It's inevitable, number one. Number two, the speed, as we mentioned, the speed and acceleration is going to be unparalleled. There's no way to understand. There's nothing in the past to compare it to. And so therefore it's critical to stay connected to what you're doing, you have to just stay connected. And you're going to have to get your hands dirty, because again, the interesting thing with AI, generative AI, is that you don't have to be smart to understand it. You don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be techie. It isn't like anything else. You can take whoever you are, whatever you bring to the table, whatever you're interested in. Not only can you talk to an AI and get information like a Google search, you're going to be able to create something. You're going to be able to solve problems, whatever those problems are. If it's parenting, if it's, nothing medical, you're not going to, but there's so much that you're going to be able to do. So therefore it's not just for certain people. It's not. And so if you actually want to me, and I think it's a responsibility for any age, because I tell my daughter, I tell young people are not interested in it because it feels techie. I feel like I have a responsibility to be active in it and to learn it for ourselves, our families, our employees. I think there's a responsibility, those of us who are connected to it, to not just for ourselves, but it's just a revolutionary opportunity that I think the next 2, 3, 4 years, like you mentioned, in 5 years, what happened, these next 5 years are going to be like 20, 30 years. And I think I just want to encourage people to take advantage now, because 10 years from now, I think things could get that. Okay, I'll leave it this. I think the next 2, 3 years are like the gold mine opportunity to really take advantage of it. I think there's going to be a time where it's going to really disrupt our reality in a way that might not be positive for everybody. Not everybody's going to catch on. And I think if before that happens, we need to take advantage of it. And then eventually with policies and the government and AGI, ASI, we've been getting to that. When AI I think there's just going to be a lot's going to change. So main thing is the next 2 to 3 years is your opportunity to take advantage of it. And yeah, I'll just stop there.
I love the responsibility piece of it, which, by the way, is the R in the work platform, because we do have a responsibility to this next generation, because we
Mm,
are the people transitioning that. We are the adults that understand how it used to work and should be learning how it's going to work, so that we can train the next generation to come in and be successful in their lives. This is
yeah,
exactly, I agree with you that it is a responsibility. So thank you for bringing that up. I
awesome.
love your enthusiasm for it, Arvel. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Come back
Thank
and join
you.
me. Okay, take care.